Everybody, this is Beyond the Buzzer 4. Wow, Kyle, what's today's date? Today is
The
June
16th,
no, June
17th,
June
sorry.
17th, 2021. I'm your host, Dane Thompson, checking with you live tonight. And no, this is not the quiet storm because my background's a little darker than normal. For the next hour and a half, myself and my colleague from the three-point conversion UCF beat writer, the student of the game, Mr. Kyle Nash. How you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm great, man. Listen, ain't nothing soft about that background with that clock. Goodness gracious.
Listen, it's red. Listen, if the clock's the only issue going on in sports right now, I think we're in a great place right now.
Hey, you know what makes it a greater place for us is that's not the click case. And the reason why you got the clock is when it's beyond the buzzer, you know what time it is. Anyways.
Exactly. You know what? There's been a lot of time going on in the NBA. Big shout out to our good friend Bobby Blackcheck, who's on the road this evening. Be safe out there, my friend. And he might be with Kyle next week down in Florida. We don't know.
That's what they say.
Big shout out to everybody inside the chat. Also, if you're on any type of social media platform that includes YouTube, Facebook, as well as any other streaming services, and you're watching the show live, please say hello, and we'll put your comment on the air. And like I said, Kyle and I will go over it, and trust me, we don't bite and harm unless it's Rodney. Also, big shout out to our good friends over at Zingo Television, Blackjack TV, I-95 Sports Network is where you'll see this show every Thursday night going forward. Shout out to our good friends at Valor, as you see in the top right-hand corner, at itsvaloer.us for all things marketing, gifts, and if you got music, they take care of those as well, too, because you might get your stuff played on the UFC. All right, Kyle, speaking of things that's been a fight, we're going to get this out the way first, and I'm going to start with, normally I wouldn't lead with this because video game is something we don't lead on the show. We're going to start this first because for those who haven't caught up with the NBA in the last 36 hours, we will catch up with everything in the NBA, and that's going to take up the majority of the show tonight. Kyle, we're going to start not talking basketball. We're going to talk about GOATs. I know,
Okay.
right? GOATs are just the topic of the subject tonight, and really, for the last couple of days, thank you, ESPN, for blowing this for all of us. But the last couple of days, EA Sports had came out with a complete GOAT campaign for the brand new cover of Madden this season, and talking about there are going to be two GOATs on the cover. And they even brought back Peyton Hillis. Kyle, there was a Peyton Hillis sighting. And and the crazy part is Peyton Hillis were like Bubba Sparks, and they both were in the farm somewhere. The announcement for the cover edition of Madden this year is not one, but two GOATs, as they call it. Thomas Edward Brady, and Patrick LeVon Mahomes II are now the dual athlete covers of Madden. The second time they've done the dual covers in the history of the game. The other previous dual covers was Troy Polamalu and Larry Fitzgerald the year after the Super Bowl. And it's two guys, Kyle, that have survived the Madden curse.
There's more than two guys that survived the Madden curse.
Brady survived it because Mahomes hurt his knee that year. He was on the cover. That's your Andy Reid ram on that sneak play. He got hurt. But Kyle, the idea of having two GOATs on the cover of Madden, Kyle, and I know that you're not a big fan of calling Tom Brady the GOAT.
No.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on EA Sports basically having GOAT now, GOAT future on the cover of Madden this year?
God, that's a pretty bold statement. Like, they could have done something far more, I don't know, lacking a better word, sane in this approach. Like this all this is the true image of the overuse of the term GOAT. Okay, I can claim that you are the GOAT of performing a show with a smoke detector broken in the background, and it doesn't mean anything. Just like the term GOAT means nothing now, regardless of my opinion of the fact that people want to use team achievements to recognize single player performance is a whole other question. This is kind of a silly idea, and really, if they want to start talking about GOAT stuff, let's get some legendary players on here. There is no reason you couldn't have Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Joe Montana, guys like this on the cover. And granted, maybe it's not in line with the fact that, for one, the alumni of the Players Association have to sign off their rights for that to be okay. But that's a whole other question. But yeah. The Madden cover has been a fan voted thing for a while, or at least it has been at times. I think they should stick with that. That's how you get awkward things like Peyton Hillis. Calling a player that is only so is Patrick Mahomes even in the league 5 years yet? A GOAT is always the wrong thing to do. and there's no middle ground. And we know how much I appreciate Patrick LaVon Mahomes II. I ain't even mad about my 49ers having lost that Super Bowl 2 years ago because Mahomes went Mahomes on the place. What am I going to do? Get mad? But yeah, the only thing I'm mad about is Madden and this GOAT crap. But they did it to be provocative and take games off the shelves when, frankly, hey, listen, in a day where digital gaming is coming closer and closer, the Madden cover may be a thing of the past in and of itself, Danny Thompson.
Yeah, Madden cover ain't going nowhere. That's like a rite of passage. But I get what you're saying about the conversation of the GOAT conversation. Listen, it's to sell copies of the game.
Yeah.
But until they change everything else, that's a completely different story for a different topic. It is good to talk about when it comes to the cover of Madden. You get to see, different guys every year. I wish they would have gone in a different direction this year. Brady's been on the cover. Mahomes has been on the cover. This is the first time two guys who've been on the cover have been on the cover a second time as well. Mm-hmm. In all the years they've done the Madden covers, this is since 2000. Barry Sanders was the first player, quote unquote, as a Madden cover athlete. But I get it. People will say that Brady is the GOAT. It's arguable depending on who you ask. But look, Patrick Mahomes, I kind of get it. It's the passing of the torch. I think this is Tom Brady's last year, and passing the league over to Patrick Mahomes, who's the best player in the league, I think, right now. Which sucks because Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers get looked over because it's going to go from Brady to Mahomes.
I could see dodging Rodgers this season, but yeah, Russell, Carrington, Wilson not ever having been on the Madden cover, being just as electric as Michael Vick, who is one of the most famous Madden covers, absolutely ridiculous in my mind.
Well, I'm just saying, not even just the fact of the Madden covers, the fact of being considered the best player in the game. Or the best, the best quarterback in the game. It's just been like that for years. It's kind of, we saw Lamar Jackson last season be on the cover of Madden, and we saw what he did his first full year in Baltimore. And then you have, things here and there, but I think to me it's just passing of the torch. It's kind of funny. The commercial is seeing Peyton Hillis. We ain't seen him in a while. You see GOATs. It is what it is. But Kyle, all right, we talked enough about GOATs because Michael Jordan is not this next segment, and neither is LeBron James, who was eliminated, but he's somehow in the news, for example. All right. For those tracking at home in the world screen of things, 36 hours ago, we were planning to talk about doing the show, and I was trying to figure out what the main topic would have been. And Kyle, 36 hours ago, we were talking about how great Kevin Durant's legendary epic performance was against the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 5.
And I'm sure we still will.
But it won't not get as much attention as it should. Okay. Kevin Durant pulled off the fourth, Kyle. The fourth in the history of the NBA playoffs. 40 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 plus assists in the same game. The game where James Harden's running around with one leg because he's been out with a hamstring injury. You never know how those hamstrings are. And they beat the Milwaukee Bucks at home on an epic performance. Durant, 49 points, 17 rebounds, 11 assists. Kyle, 11 assists in the game. All right. And Kyle, the craziest thing is the Nets won the game at home. And they were led by two guys the only two players that are remaining from the Seattle Supersonics, scoring 80 points in the game. Durant had 49, and then Jeff Green, I don't know what the hell Jeff Green was doing, but he was just hitting everything under the sun. Yeah. Orlando Magic Hall of Famer, Jeff Green, had won the game of his life. And Kyle, listen, now I know you're not saying you're the expert resident basketball guy, but you're a lot better. You're a lot more knowledgeable than a lot of people are. All right. You have the defending defensive player of the year in Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yes, I'm not even saying his name right because it does not need to be given correctly tonight. In the fourth quarter, Kyle, Kevin Durant is literally just cooking the Bucks. Okay, he is cooking them, frying them, and fricasseeing them. Two things Giannis didn't do in the fourth quarter, Kyle, is really alarming to me. I want to get your thoughts on this. Number one, if Kevin Durant's cooking and Giannis is the reigning defensive player of the year, why was Giannis not guarding Kevin Durant down the stretch? And two, there is one play that's going to live in infamy. Now, Giannis has had some issues in the playoffs, and we all know what Giannis is. But Kyle, Giannis is 7'65", 7'96", okay? And he is backing down James Harden on one leg, and we all know how great a defender James Harden is.
Or rather, isn't.
Kyle, what's worse? Giannis not guarding Durant, or having a chance to give the Bucks the lead, and you're backing down James Harden, and you try a turnaround fadeaway.
Yeah,
What's
right.
worse at this point?
Listen, it's the back down play that's far worse, because I can make an argument that Giannis isn't a good matchup with Kevin Durant.
Okay.
I can very easily, cogently make that argument. I'm not trying to say that Giannis is a slow player, but listen, at this point, if you put Giannis on KD and he's going off, as the coach, I can see the strategy of, listen, we don't know what happened with KD. He's showing up in a way that fans wanted to tell me for a while now he's not capable of doing, and that somebody on this panel forecasted was possible that he may make the appearance that we're all waiting for him to make. Not to mention any names, but he's dashingly handsome with a big red clock over his head, Danny Thompson. But when I see Giannis catch the ball in the post, I want him working inside. I want to see man's ball. Like, listen, I'm a fan of 90s basketball. I want to see it back. I want to see it around, dunk that. And you're fading away on a guy with a bad leg. I believe
that's 6 inches shorter than you too.
That's an excellent point. Thank you, Danny Thompson. And the image I only have in my head when I say it out loud is Omar Epps in that gif that goes, bruh. Okay. You, a two-time reigning MVP, the guy who has carried the deer, who has made Fear the Deer a thing on your back, and that's the one moment where you look like people. That's the moment where Giannis, you look like the KD burner account. Okay?
It was arguably, I'm watching this, and I'm like, okay, Durant's got Harden. And then I see Harden just shove off, like Harden just told Landry Shamet, get away. I got him. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what is this? To quote Shaq, this is barbecue chicken, okay? This is literally, you just back him down, and you dunk on him. Like Kyle said, this is what you're supposed to do. Giannis has a 7,000-foot wingspan. This is how this is supposed to work. When I saw Giannis go left, right, fadeaway, and James Harden is trying to literally, he's pushing on James Harden, and Harden is not, like, he's holding his ground. I'm like, how does this work? And then Kyle, he tries this ridiculous fadeaway, and it's like clang. And I'm like, at that point, I'm like, you know what? Mike Budenholzer's job is not going to be like, if this happens again, Mike Budenholzer will be on the unemployment line. Okay? He didn't switch on Giannis. And PJ Tucker, Kyle, on the other end, PJ Tucker is doing everything he can to guard his former college teammate Kevin Durant, but Kevin Durant's 7 foot tall, and PJ Tucker is 6'5".
Right.
Okay. There's only so much PJ Tucker can do to stop Kevin Durant. And like you mentioned before, if Kevin Durant goes, and our good friend Ted Hicks says, supernova mode, like he did on Tuesday night, you're not stopping him. The only thing you do is Giannis is supposed to be able to technically put a hand out there. And Kyle, for once, Steve Nash actually had to. Steve Nash had to make adjustments because James Harden is on one leg, and Jeff Green and Joe Harris can't hit a shot, and Jeff Green is carrying the team, and Steve Nash had to make some great defensive shit. Steve Nash outcoached a 2-time Coach of the Year when it counted the most. Kyle, speaking of things that count the most, let's continue on our things that count the most. And as far as playoff-wise, let's talk about another defensive player of the year that got shown up last night, and that's Rudy Gobert. Another guy that's caught so much of flack and attention for not playing well in playoff games, Paul George, a.k.a. Playoff P, a.k.a. Pandemic P, a.k.a. Perry the Platypus. Yes, Pandemic P, Playoff P, Perry the Platypus, whatever you want to call him. Paul George had the second, Kyle, 30-10-5 game of the playoffs because Kevin Durant did the night before. The Clippers, who lost Kawhi Leonard with an ACL injury, but we don't know the extent of the tear because the ACL is still swollen, and it can take a couple weeks for us to know how bad it is. The Clippers go to Utah on the road with Paul George. George goes nuts and literally is doing everything he can to embarrass Rudy Gobert on national television. The Clippers are now 1 game away from the Western Conference playoffs, Kyle. Listen, I'm not going to give Paul George the Kevin Durant treatment because it's still Pandemic P, and I still see the shot going off the side of the backboard in the playoffs last year. Okay? It is what it is. But, Kyle, how important is Paul George to the Clippers having to force Game 6 at home in front of cardboard cutouts at Staples Center tomorrow night?
Buddy, I mean, listen, thanks to Paul George last night, the series actually started, right? What
Mm-hmm.
what's the old adage, Danny Thompson? You don't have a start to a series until somebody wins other than on their home floor. Okay.
Correct.
And we haven't seen that yet in the Brooklyn and
Milwaukee series.
thank you. And the Brooklyn, I was going to say Brooklyn Bucks to get that alliteration, but then I screwed myself. But yeah,
Oh,
you
okay.
haven't seen that with Brooklyn and Milwaukee. Okay, so that could still be a crapshoot, which we kind of expected from that series from moment one. We were talking Game 7 weeks ago before that series started. Here,
Mm-hmm.
everyone has been griping about Paul George coming off the milk carton. Guess what? The dude done did it. And what makes it really scary, Danny Thompson, is all it takes is one for a man to catch his confidence and then fan the flames. And Donovan Mitchell may be helpless to do a damn thing about it. Because at the end of the day, he can't stop everybody, right? That's
I mean,
huge is the term I'm looking for. I'll put it that way.
And Donovan Mitchell's 3-point shot, by the way, he's with 6 of 18 in the last 2 games, which they both have lost. By the way, hey, Precious, we see in the chat, Bobby's driving, so he can patch his play across the screen. And I think Bobby will say, hey, once he gets to a stopping point, as usual. But back to things that were stopping. First off, Donovan Mitchell's shot was stopping. Rudy Gobert couldn't stop anything. The Jazz are now in a hole. And now Kyle, all-star point guard Mike Conley, hopefully will be back for Game 6. If not, Kyle, do you think the Clippers close this thing out tomorrow night?
Well, I mean, it all depends on Kawhi's health, or I should say the lack thereof. You know, that situation makes that incredibly difficult. And I don't really think that's to me, that's what makes the difference. The guy who is an expert in load management, or at least surrounding him has been expertise in load management, is now out due to injury issues. Say what you will about it, but I think that matters, man. You know.
Speaking of things that matter, Atlanta finally decided to do something for once. Like, what do you mean finally decided to do something for once? The city of Atlanta actually got a victory last night, Kyle. The Atlanta Hawks actually avenged the Atlanta Falcons. You're wondering, what the hell am I talking, Thompson? What the hell are you talking about?
Far, but okay.
Well, listen, no, Kyle. Listen, the Philadelphia 76ers had an insurmountable lead at home in the playoffs in the late part of the third quarter. As Kyle, they were up by 26 points on the Atlanta Hawks, who do not have the best offense, the best defensive player, and Joel Embiid and Seth Curry are just going nuts. But Kyle, funny how the game of basketball works out. The Sixers were up 26, and they lost Game 5 at home in perfect Doc Rivers blow up the tank style, Kyle. Not only did the Hawks win the game, Kyle, they've now taken home court and have a chance to close out the Sixers tomorrow night. Kyle, I have one question for you, Kyle. You've been pretty critical about Ben Simmons on this show before.
Well,
Ben Simmons, Kyle. Actually, you know what? Let's be critical of the entire Sixers roster last night, Kyle. Only 2 players hit field goals in the second half last night. That was Seth Curry and Joel Embiid. Not one Sixer. Not a one. All the remaining Sixers hit as many shots as the mascot and Doc Rivers combined, and as many shots as me and you hit, Kyle, in the second half. Kyle, at this point, is it time, if they lose tomorrow night, is it time for the process to end in Philadelphia at this point?
Well, gosh, you'd have to think so. And like, I don't think it's fair to say I've been critical of Ben Simmons, but we know what he is. He's an excellent skill style player in a league where shooting is paramount. The dude just doesn't fit in this generation as good as he would others. For me, it's all about Joel Embiid and whether or not he can stay healthy. And the instant his knee starts to flare up, now we got problems. Now, granted, sir, that has nothing to do with dropping a 26-point lead. But heck, you already know my answer. 2 years ago, I was saying that Philly should blow it up. And they're here now, and, well, hey, listen, it looks very strongly like the train will be stopped here. And listen, there is no shame to losing to Trae Young and company. But, man, I'll tell you, I didn't see Atlanta in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I'm at that point where I'm pretty damn sure we're going to see it. And I'll tell you, say what you will. I think either the Bucks or the Nets would rather face Philly in the current state that they're in, where they don't know if they could rely on their stars, where they have a bad loss in their head, where the fans are all terrified, where all of the above is true, than Atlanta team with Trae Young, who's evoking Reggie Miller all the way back in round one and doing amazing things throughout these playoffs. To me, Atlanta's been the scarier team since they got past New York, and now, man, I'll put it this way: it's the what's his word? It's the unpredictability of the Philly roster. At their ceiling, they're probably better than Atlanta on their best night, but they don't deliver that product consistently, and consistency is what gets you through games like basketball, where you have to win 4 games to advance, simply put.
Now, the frustrating part is Ben Simmons not scoring, but hell, where is Tobias Harris last night, too? He was on a milk carton last night. At some point, Kyle, you mentioned this, and I think Sixer fans, I remember early in the year when the Sixers were in the James Harden sweepstakes, and they decided not to trade Maurice Tybalt or Tyrese Maxey with Ben Simmons in a deal to get James Harden, which they're probably regretting right now because guess what? Even though James Harden's on one leg, at least James Harden is shooting the basketball. Kyle, I've never seen a guy at 6'10" that refuses to shoot the basketball. Kyle, he's not even backing anybody down.
Man, listen. I'm still of the mind that Harden arriving there wasn't best. Hindsight is 20/20, obviously, but with the information we had and what we are seeing, it's a little different when you have a force like KD on the floor doing things. If there's no guarantee that Harden would be banged up if he was with Philly, but if he were alongside a banged up Joel Embiid, would they really be in any different situation? And oh, by the way, they'd have to deal with the drama that can be James Harden. But I digress.
Listen, at least James Harden, even on one leg, will shoot the basketball.
No, and then listen, in that instance, you're correct. I don't argue with that part.
I think it's super frustrating at this point. I mean, and Kyle, you know what's even more frustrating about Giannis and Ben Simmons combined? For the offensive efficiencies they both do not have. Well, they have, meaning that Giannis can't shoot the basketball outside 10 feet and continue to shoot threes when he's completely wide open. I think he shot one the other night against Brooklyn that he was coming down the break late in the fourth quarter. He shot a 3 with like 17 seconds of the shot clock. Why are you shooting threes? And the Nets were just super happy because James Harden had made a mistake on the other end. Between Giannis shooting jump shots and Ben Simmons and Giannis both not hitting free throws, it's even worse. So you have a point guard, Kyle, at 6'10", that doesn't shoot and can't hit free throws. This isn't Shaq. At least Shaq was giving you, with the Lakers, he's on the court, Shaq's giving you 30 and 15.
And some defense.
Yes. Okay, I can take the missing free throws if you're giving me 30 and 15. But if you're giving me, Kyle, the good old Kyle Nash special of 12, 7, and 7, that's not doing nothing for me.
The Kyle Nash? How was 12, 7, and 7 the Kyle Nash special?
Because I think right now the way the Sixers are scoring and they need help, I think you can give them 12 points and 7 rebounds and 7 assists right now.
I might be able to give them 7 rebounds. That's accurate. I can't speak for this other stuff.
Listen, Kyle, you'll get some buckets because obviously Ben Simmons will get you the basketball. It's like 4 and 5 on the other end when you're on offense. Like I said, it's crazy. It's just completely frustrating. Ben Simmons is 24 years old and one of the younger players in the league, and he just cannot seem to do it in the playoffs or just can't do it in the regular season in general. Give the Hawks a lot of credit. Give the Clippers a lot of credit because they both won their games. The Bucks are down by 10 in the second quarter on the Nets, but it's only the second quarter. As we learned, playoff leads don't last long. Speaking of things that don't last long, Kyle, now we've got
us talking about the Suns because they swept. Sorry.
Well, Kyle, no, the Suns are off, which is a good thing because that transitions into what happened in the last 36 hours. The news started yesterday after Kevin Durant literally destroyed the Bucks on Tuesday night. Going into Wednesday morning, the Suns were basically waiting for a week, potential week off before they played the Western Conference Finals and got hit with devastating news as star point guard Chris Paul was put under COVID protocol on Wednesday morning. We do not know if Chris Paul has contracted COVID. The only thing I can say is they tested 168 tests last week, and there was one positive test. Which questions is Chris Paul got taken the vaccine?
Yeah, we don't know that.
because HIPAA rules and HIPAA violations will not allow people to disclose your ability to get COVID test or not. Sam Darnold and Christian McCaffrey. We don't know if Chris Paul's taking the COVID test. All we know is that Chris Paul has got the vaccine. All we know is Chris Paul's in protocol. And with protocol, if it's normal, it's 10 to 14 days, Kyle, which means if that's the case, Chris Paul will probably miss game 1 and potentially game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, both games at home against either the Clippers or the Jazz. Hopefully, for Suns fans, that this series extends to 7 games because game 1 will be Tuesday in Phoenix instead of game 1 being Sunday in Phoenix. Right. Every day helps. Kyle, it's unfortunate. Doesn't you feel like Chris Paul has like the worst luck in the world when it comes to this?
I mean, we established this in the previous rounds, had we not?
But like, it's like when I saw the news on Wednesday morning, I'm like, it can't be Chris Paul. Of all people, Chris Paul, he just had a 37-point game and sent the MVP home as he got ejected for almost fighting Devin Booker. Okay, he sent him back to Serbia. Okay, sent the MVP back to Serbia. All right.
Enjoy the Olympics, mother. Beep, you know.
Oh no, because we'll get to Jokic in the Olympics in just a second. Good segue. He sent the Denver Nuggets home on their home court, and even the guy who was fighting the Nuggets fans got courtside tickets for Game 1 of the playoffs thanks to Devin Booker. All right. Now he's contracted COVID, and we don't know how long this is. He's in protocol. We don't know how long the protocol is. Kyle, when you saw Chris Paul, like, how bad of luck does Chris Paul? Is like, does the basketball gods don't want this man to make the finals? Is that what it is?
Basketball. Listen, I can make an argument that this transcends. We're having the in all of sport conversation when it comes to Chris Paul, right? But I'll tell you this: if the Suns make it to the finals, over and above this, that only makes the legacy for CP, more legit, right?
It's you have to feel bad for Chris Paul.
Of course.
I mean, he had a chance to make the NBA Finals when they had the Warriors on the ropes up 3-2, 3 games to 2. He's outplaying Steph Curry, outplaying him like crazy. Hamstring goes away. Yeah. All the years with the Clippers, either he was hurt or Blake Griffin was hurt at the same time. One of the two didn't last in playoff series, and they've been ousted left and right. Let's not talk about the year Oklahoma City, because it's Oklahoma freaking City. All right. The New Orleans teams, he only had one respectable New Orleans team. And that team lost a Game 7 to the San Antonio Spurs. Like,
I mean, it's okay to lose Game 7 to Pop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the Spurs team was way better than that, and they lost. And that team ended up losing to Golden State in the conference finals. That's all I'm saying. And Kyle, at some point, it's just so frustrating to see Chris Paul go down. And then as soon as Chris Paul goes down, we get the news of Kawhi Leonard that was going from he's not playing Game 5 to a knee injury to he's doubtful to he might be out for the rest of the playoffs to this is an ACL tear. We don't know how long this guy is out, all in a 5-hour period.
Right.
But Kyle, it gets better. We talked about Kawhi's injury. We talked about Chris Paul's injury. Well, I say COVID illness, injury. It's all the same thing because they're both out. Yep. Then comes the news of head coaches being shown the door. It started with Scott Brooks, who was told a week and a half ago, to dismay of many of Wizards fans, that he was that he was going to be retained for next season, and then it came to a contract impasse, and Scott Brooks goes, bye-bye.
See you.
All right, that's one coach down with 5 openings down in the league. About maybe, Kyle, 4 hours later, we get word that Stan Van Gundy, after one season, was fired by the Pelicans.
Yeah.
And then today, unceremoniously, some kind of interesting, surprising news, Rick Carlisle, with 2 years left in his deal, was like, you know what? I'm out, and I'm going to pursue other coaching opportunities I'm excited for. So now, Kyle, we have 3 head coach openings in a span of less than 24 hours.
Right.
So now, Kyle, let's look at the jobs around the league, Kyle. And I want your thoughts on the different jobs around the league. We've talked about the Boston job before earlier with Brad Stevens now stepping away. We talked about Portland with Terry Stotts now being gone. We've talked about Orlando, and Orlando's what it is. And Indiana is in the middle of Indiana. But Kyle, let's look at the 3 jobs that came open in the last 36 hours. Let's start with the one team that doesn't have a superstar player under the age of 25, and that's the Washington Wizards. The Wizards, who were unceremoniously knocked out of the playoffs, have Bradley Beal, who's third-team All-NBA, averaging 30 points and 5 rebounds and 5 assists a game, 31 points a game. You have Russell Westbrook, who got his 53rd season in a row with a triple-double averaging for the season. I mean, like, this guy averaging – it's just to the point where people are numb to the fact that this man finished the season averaging a triple-double. Like, it doesn't even surprise people anymore. Kyle, if you look at the 7 jobs, Kyle, which one to you, if you are putting your resume in, which job are you – how do you rank the jobs from 1 through 7 in your opinion? Just looking at the roster, look at the situations, rank the jobs 1 through 7. And if you need me to give you the teams again, I'll give you the teams again.
So I'll give you the bottom. The only job that's worse than Nollins at this point is the Magic. And simply because the Magic are a situation where they are completely obliterated. And as much as I like Marco Fulton, Jonathan Isaac, and T. Ross and those guys, at the end of the day, that is a lot of disarray that's taking place. And I don't think Stan Van Gundy's walking back through that door to try to make things better, but that's a whole other question. Yeah, no. So I definitely think that that's the worst job. Next up, I might surprise some people. The New Orleans job is really going to be the next worst thing in my mind. But Kyle, why do you say that? They have Zion Williamson. Exactly. And what I hear about going on with SVP, that be Stan Van, for those of you people that don't know better and realize how awesome a coach he truly is, when I hear that, quote, Zion's family is getting shouldered the labeling, we'll call it the blame, of or I should say the reason that Stan Van Gundy's going away is because Zion's not happy and we want him to go to a bigger market for his next contract. Like most rookies, once they're drafted, they extend where they're at and get a butt ton of money for it and then have to kind of suffer through it for a while until they get big at the next deal, typically speaking. Granted, listen, I'm no NBA contract maven, but typically that's how it works. But the situation is so dysfunctional in New Orleans that Zion may be in a place where he's going to sign with a different organization for his first extension after being a rookie. That's a problem, because if that happens, New Orleans as a franchise would, I think, be in position to be even worse than the Magic. But hey, what do you expect a group that thought the Pelicans was a better choice for a name over the New Orleans Brass? But I digress. So
it's a state bird. Leave the Pelican alone. The
Pelican is a lame thing. Okay, you want listen. You want Pelicans.
That mascot was trash, though. The first one.
You want Pelicans, okay? You watch Julia Roberts and
Pelican brief. Kyle,
you
really?
watch Julia Roberts and Denzel Washington in the Pelican brief, okay? That's where you get your Pelicans from, okay? You want Pelicans, watch Nemo and watch his dad get transported to the Australian dentist's office, okay? That's where you get your damn Pelicans. You don't get them out of the NBA logo bin, all right? Now for me, it's very interesting because I don't know what to make of this whole situation with the Mavericks. Porzingis was feeling slighted, and now it's rumored that Luka's jawing a little bit. I would have put them as one of my favorite jobs until I start hearing about that. Guys this young getting this discontented is a problem to me. I'm very intimidated by that if I'm a coaching prospect. For me, if I'm picking the 2 jobs that I think are the best without going through each and every single one, I like Boston and I like Portland. Boston, it's effing Boston. Like, other than granted, the only thing you have to beat are the social justice issues. Guess what? If you go in, you fix the culture, you're in a good place. In my mind, the way things are this day and age, it's easier to fix a culture like that because you have the peer pressure of everybody else in the league doing it right, or at least better than you, I should say. Let's not go that far. versus trying to stop a team from falling apart. And I'll tell you, with that situation of what's forming, like I said, I think changing the culture and trying to do things right as a team would be easier. Now, granted, maybe you can't fix the fans, and that's more of a player issue, and I have to overcome that as a coach. I get that. But for me, the Trailblazers is interesting. They're a young, hot team. They got Dame. Dude's awesome. What's my one thing I got to do as a coach to make sure I last there? Have a very long heart-to-heart with the GM during my interview process and make damn sure they're going to do what they can to surround that cat with some weapons and artillery. If they achieve that, Portland's a badass job,
Well, Kyle, you mentioned a lot of interesting points. Let's start with the job that you mentioned for us. Yes, the Celtics job, I think, is probably the elite job of all of them, okay? Because with the Celtics job, you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, both under 20, about 25 years old or younger in that situation, and they're going to be there for a while. All right, you have two All-Stars in the back. You have two All-Stars, and you have Marcus Smart. The problem is Kemba Walker is still on that roster with that insanely bad contract, and like you mentioned before, it is Boston, and they have issues with social injustice issues when it comes to the fans. All right, that's your first problem. When you mention Portland, yes, you have Dame Lillard, and you mentioned the fact of they have weapons around him. But the problem is, here is the underlying fact, and you mentioned a great point. You got to have a heart-to-heart with the GM to say, go get the pieces I need. But when your general manager thinks he's above everybody, that is a serious problem. If you watch the Terry Stotts exit interview or when they found the firing, he basically threw his coach that got to the playoffs every single year under the bus. Mm-hmm. If I'm a head coach like Jason Kidd's, like, you know what? I'm not down for this bus throwing. Mm-hmm. I do have Dame Lillard, but the problem is, Kyle, you mentioned, they're 2 6'3" guards, and neither one of them can defend. You're not going to win the NBA like this. They're going to have to trade CJ McCollum at some point in time. I've heard, Dame Lillard could be traded. You'd be damn near asinine to trade Dame Lillard if you're in Portland because guess what? He wants to be there.
No, you are asinine. I'm saying.
But Kyle, the Knicks can offer 5 first-round draft picks and players off the roster. So you might want to – that conversation does – I think you pick up the phone at 5 first-round draft picks.
Listen, if you throw the Ted DiBiase defense and go $1 million man on me, everyone's got a price, Danny Thompson.
I'm just saying.
I'm not an idiot.
But Kyle, you said it would have to take 4 or 5 first-round draft picks and young players for me to even consider the conversation.
If you're working in my front office and that call happens, you look at me, hey Kyle, asinine just called. Okay, that's what.
I mean, the only team that turns down 5 first-round draft picks are the Charlotte Hornets. Kyle, the Hornets turned down 6 draft picks so they can pick Frank Kaminsky.
Man, listen,
you have nothing here. I get it. The Orlando Magic, Kyle, actually seemed like a better job compared to a lot of them. Why? There's no expectations. The Magic have been bad for so damn long. There is no expectations. All right? And the thing is, it's so bad, Steve Clifford's like, you know what? I don't want to be around this anymore. So I'll just, you know what? I'm out of here. The Magic are going on their 3rd rebuild, Kyle, since Dwight Howard left. This is the 3rd rebuild.
Yeah.
The 3rd one. They went through with Oladipo. Now they went with Vucevic, and now they're hitting the reset button again. And the only thing is they have a bunch of injured misfit parts. That's what they have.
Yeah.
Jonathan Isaac, Markelle Fultz, they can't stay healthy. They haven't been healthy. I mean, you mentioned Terrence Ross. You got Cole Anthony, R.J. Hampton, Akike, Wendell Carter Jr. Like I said, Kyle, this is the island of misfit injured toys. All right. If you can find some Gorilla Glue, and I don't mean the one in that girl's hair that got the lawsuit, and put it back together, the Magic might be worth something. But Kyle, you mentioned some really good points about New Orleans, about Zion Williamson and the family situation. Now, it's rumored that Zion's family is getting in the ear of said young Padawan and displaying not trust in the front office and in the direction of the Pelicans. Now, Kyle, you mentioned this guy's been in the league 3 years. So what is he talking about dysfunction? Now, Kyle, there is some dysfunction in New Orleans. Okay.
Oh, sure.
It wasn't just Stan with Zion because guess what? Stan helped Zion move to point forward, and Zion was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But Stan had issues with Brandon Ingram. He had issues with Lonzo Ball. He had issues with the younger players in the league because guess what? You kept pushing these guys too far. It sucks because guess what? Younger guys don't understand about being pushed nowadays. It did lead to some disruptions, but Kyle, here's the other problem. This is not more than Stan Van Gundy. This is on David Griffin at this point.
Oh, I agree with you.
Kyle, this will be Zion Williamson's third head coach in 3 seasons and 25 months in real time. That is considered dysfunction. When your head coach walks out the door in a fiscal year 3 times, this is the third head coach you're going to hire. And if I'm Zion, I'm kind of worried that what are we doing here? Like, and maybe is this the reason why Anthony Davis decided he didn't want to be in New Orleans no more? You're right, Kyle. Maybe the Pelican, or maybe the fact that the city with the Saints, who nobody cares about, by the way. Who that?
Wow.
Ain't nobody taking that. Listen, at least our head coach stays around. All right. For the Pelicans, it's a rotating door. Now, Kyle, on the back end, they do have some talented players. You have Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, 2 guys, and they keep Lonzo Ball, 3 guys who I think that can run the right sets. But the other part is Stan couldn't teach these guys defense. Alvin Gentry couldn't teach these guys defense. It will take basically, I would say not Stan Van Gundy. It would take Jeff Van Gundy to maybe teach these guys defense.
Or Steve Clifford? I don't know.
Nah, Clifford don't want. Listen, Clifford's had enough young guys. All right.
I didn't say it would happen. I'm just saying.
Steve Clifford's at the point of his years that he doesn't want to not ball any further than what he is at this point. All right.
Oh, so he's going to be Mike Singletary. I want winners.
Listen, and still at this point, Steve Clifford deserves to actually coach some winning players. Okay. All right, he deserves it. He had the Charlotte job, and it really wasn't the most likable job. And then the front office didn't listen, as Steve Clifford might be psychic. Steve Clifford told the Charlotte Hornets to draft Donovan Mitchell, thinking he was going to be a star. Hornets decided to draft Frank Kaminsky.
Whoops.
Steve Clifford said, hey, go get Trae Young the year of the draft, because I remember, go get Trae Young. They took Mo Bamba because they didn't move up to get him and refused to trade Aaron Gordon in the process. And look where we are now.
Yeah, no, and listen, even back then, I was singing the praises of Trae Young, back then.
Yes.
And with my limited basketball acumen.
All right, speaking of things that have basketball acumen, what's going on in Dallas? There is no basketball acumen. Don Nelson, the guy that's basically not the old Don Nelson, but his son, the architect of the championship years of Dirk Nowitzki, the one that brought in Rick Carlisle, the one that drafted Luka Doncic, was walked out the door on Sunday in a power struggle with Mark Cuban, which started this whole issue with the heads rolling. It started with Kristaps Porzingis not seeing eye to eye with Luka Doncic. It started with Rick Carlisle saying he didn't really see eye to eye with Luka Doncic either. Don Nelson didn't like the GM that was supposedly non-GM, and it's all on Mark Cuban. And Mark Cuban's cussing out reporters. This is great. This is like basically watching the show Dynasty all over again, or watching Mark Cuban treat himself like J.R. Ewing in Dallas. All right? He's trying to run things, and the problem is he's going to give Luka Doncic a $200 million contract. And he's going to sign it because he's $200 million, and it's to stay in Texas with no state taxes. No one's dumb enough to turn down $200 million in the state of Texas. I don't give a damn who you are. All right? I ain't turning down $20 to stay in Texas with no state taxes. All I'm saying is, Luka and that roster you mentioned, Kyle, that roster is not very good. Kristaps Porzingis can't stay healthy, and he's unhappy. And Kyle, I'm gonna give you another pop culture reference. When Kristaps Porzingis decided to stay in Dallas after he was traded from New York and decided to stay there long term, he was told to be Luka's 1B. So in pop culture terms, Kyle, if Luka is Beyonce, KP was supposed to be Kelly Rowland. All right, in the Dallas Magic version of Destiny's Child. After 2 seasons, Kristaps Porzingis was a combination of the 2 chicks that were kicked out in the first set of Destiny's Child. All right. Latavia is now turned into the role of Kristaps Porzingis as they're going to 86 him out the window with hopefully $90 million left on his contract. And Charlotte, please don't trade for him. All right. We talk about the Washington Wizards and that job. We said the Mavericks job is a complete mess. The Wizards job we really haven't talked about is Bradley Beal. You have Russell Westbrook's fatally bad contract. And outside of the Daniel Gafford's second half, Thomas Bryant's come off an injury, and the rest of that roster outside of Rui Hachimura, they're paying Davis Bertans $80 million, whose shot is still in last season.
Yeah, Washington wasn't one of my favorite stops either, but the good news, it's not really tied to drama. It's just bad management.
Bad roster construction.
Right.
The good news is, because LeBron James' team is desperate, they might trade for Russell Westbrook.
Wow.
Speaking of LeBron James, as I segue into that, LeBron James decides to open his mouth about players being injured and the fact of the scheduling. This is from a man who's sitting at home right now worrying about playing for the damn Tomb Squad. All right. I love LeBron, and I've mentioned it before in the show. Much love LeBron, but sometimes stay out of it. All right. Yes, everybody knows everybody's been playing long and hard for the last 2 years. We all know it. You guys know it. You knew you guys set up the deal to get the league back in play. But Kyle, you know who's not complaining, Kyle? It's the women of the WNBA. And I'm saying why? Why are you saying women are complaining? Because these women do it year after year playing 2 professional leagues because they're trying to make an income. Do you know how hard it is to play in 1 professional league? But they play in 2. These women play, Kyle. At the end of the WNBA season, they go overseas to play. A lot of them don't get back until the start of the WNBA season. And if you're Natasha Howard, you missed the first 3 weeks of the season because you were still playing overseas. Diana Taurasi did it for, I think, 13 years in a row, Kyle, after UConn. She went from UConn to Team USA to the Phoenix Mercury to playing in Russia for, I think, 12 straight years. You want to talk about, and they don't have first-class flights, Kyle. They fly commercial.
That's right.
They fly with us, okay? I ain't never seen an NBA team's flight get delayed. But if you ask the Dallas Wings, it happened 3 times in a 10-day period. And they had to play with no delays in games. I'm not saying that the NBA players like LeBron, those guys don't have anything to say because guess what? Injuries have been a problem in the playoffs, Kyle. For the first time, since the inception of the All-Star game, Kyle, this is the most injured All-Stars in one season that has missed at least 1 game in the playoffs. We have 8 All-Stars that have missed 1 or more games in the playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows the wear and tear is here. All right? No one needs to discuss wear and tear because we all know it's wear and tear. You know what else is wear and tear? And wear and tear is also taken on the fact of Nikola Jokic. We mentioned this earlier. You asked about Nikola Jokic in the Olympics. Nikola's like, you know what? Serbia needs to qualify for the Olympics, but I'm taking the summer off. Nikola Jokic will not be available for Serbia, not only in the qualifier, but even if they qualify for the Olympics, he ain't playing in the Olympics either. He's taking the summer off. A la LeBron James, a la Anthony Davis.
Well, the difference is the 2 of them are injured, but and I'm not saying that Luka is entitled to take it off. But
Luka decided he missed basketball so much he's going to play for the Slovenian national team because he's over there getting prepared for Europe to get them qualified for the Olympics.
Oh, right? Yeah, I said Luka. I meant Porzingis. My bad. Excuse me.
No, Jokic.
Or Jokic. God, I'm a mess. Yeah.
Yes, you're basically being the Dallas Mavericks right now. You're a mess.
Yeah, listen, I don't know who's playing for me. That might be why Porzingis got so disgruntled. He got called Jokic by accident too often, you know.
He wish he was Jokic right now. So Nikola Jokic saying no to Serbia, Luka Doncic saying yes to Slovenia. What does that mean for Team USA? Well, like I said, no Anthony Davis, no LeBron James. If Kawhi Leonard is torn in ACL, you ain't getting Kawhi Leonard in the Olympics either. All right. Team USA's roster will be announced on July 23rd, I want to say it is. They have to have the official roster set. And, Kyle, the good news is we have 3 commits to the team already. Dame Lillard has said yes. Draymond Green has said yes. Jason Tatum has said yes. Kyle, at this point with the civil unrest in Tokyo, and especially with, I think Tokyo had 10,000 workers quit because of not being able to get the COVID vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Is it even interesting at this point to even go play in the Olympics, especially after all the wear and tear?
It's a little too interesting is what I would say, right?
I mean, who's left? Because, Kyle, if you think about this, the NBA season is still going on. Team USA meets in July on June 6th in Vegas. Mm-hmm. The NBA Finals will still be going on. I don't think Paul George is going to want to play in the Olympics. And if Devin Booker makes the NBA Finals, I don't think Devin Booker wants any part of playing in Tokyo. Chris Paul's already not playing. He's 38 years old. He ain't playing in Tokyo.
He would pull the Murtaugh rule, as he should.
I mean, he's got 3 gold medals. He don't need to play anymore. At this point, I don't think Kevin Durant's going to go. As much KD loves basketball, if they make the finals, he ain't playing. Kyrie Irving, because they said if there's going to be serious issues if you talk about social injustice, Kyrie ain't going either. And the Nets will tackle James Harden at the airport if he thinks he's going to Tokyo after his hamstring injury. Ain't no way.
Well, actually, hey, go ahead and let him go to Japan. I hear it's a very low-calorie diet over there. So,
listen, James Harden's the only man I know that can look like go from Sherman Klump to Buddy Love in 36 hours after a trade.
Sherman Klump to Buddy Love. That's the kind of Big J journalism you get here on the buzzer.
Kyle, tell me I'm wrong, Kyle. Because we saw that game in Houston, Kyle. He looked straight. Mind you, Sherman Clump was getting buckets that night, but Kyle, he looked extremely over.
I'm not here to tell you you're wrong. I just wasn't ready for it. And actually, I'll tell you, if Phoenix wasn't a threat to go to the finals, I would wonder your opinion on DeAndre Ayton getting involved. But that's still problematic.
But DeAndre Ayton plays for another country. He's from Barbados, so basically.
I didn't know that.
He's not from the United States.
I am thusly educated.
So he's not playing for the Team USA. So he's
and
not.
Barbados is pissed.
No, they're not even qualifying tournament. I think he's going to try to get them into the Olympics for 2024. I think that's his goal, to get the country going for. To get them going for basketball. Like I said, Team USA is in turmoil, disarray, because I would say is if Lithuania gets them in the tournament, Lithuania, as long as Jonas Valanciunas and Domantas Sabonis says yes to Lithuania. Kyle, can you imagine Draymond Green having to guard both of them with the international rule that you can put your hand inside the cylinder?
No, I cannot.
It's going to get, like Bubba Sparks says, ugly.
Yeah.
So, we discussed head coaching changes. We discussed LeBron James. We discussed Trae Young and everything else around the NBA, Kyle. That was enough NBA talk for one night. Because who's not talking right now? We can't say anything. Let's talk about the Arizona Diamondbacks real quick before we hop out the show tonight. Kyle, the Diamondbacks set an MLB record for his 23rd consecutive road loss in baseball. Kyle, if my team loses 23 straight games on the road in something, isn't it time to start fighting the other team? Like, you got to win something, right?
Well, that's the thing. It's not guaranteed either, Chief. Listen, historically, from what I understand, and granted, I'm no great baseball guru, but the Diamondbacks are often among the bottom part of the league in scoring overall when it comes to putting runs across the plate. And then, ever since Randy Johnson was no longer a thing, their pitching, well, that old gray mold just ain't what it used to be. And on the rare occasions they do spend properly on pitching, they might be competitive, but lately that hasn't been the case. So you got a team that can't do well on offense, historically does relatively poorly on offense, and then has horrible pitching. What do you think's going to happen?
I mean, that's what is going to happen, Kyle. You know what? We didn't talk NFL tonight. I know we talked about GOATs earlier, but Kyle, I want to get 2 points about the NFL real quick before we jump out of here, because some things don't make sense to me. I want you to try to make sense of this for me, because this is your expertise.
All right.
There's a story coming out of Chicago about Justin Fields buying the fact that they plan on the Bears on starting Andy Dalton to start the season, Kyle. Justin Fields has bought into the whole idea of him taking the organizational development timeline, which means Andy Dalton will be starting the season. Kyle, is Justin Fields pulling our leg, or is this the dumbest thing you ever heard? Please, expound, please, sir.
The answer is actually somewhere in the middle, right?
Okay.
It could be at least one of three things. One, he's taking the company line. He wants to hone his skills. He wants to go to the woodshed and come out a damn Shaolin quarterback monk. Very possible that's true. Personally, don't buy it, but very possible that's true. Option two, you look at history. It's only a matter of time before Andy Dalton is carted or booed off the damn field anyway, okay? Bears fans are used to mediocre quarterback play. Jay Cutler, for as much flack as he's gotten, Danny Thompson, is the second best quarterback in that franchise in the entire history. And the next guy's who? Norm Van Brocklin or something like that? One of those guys where they would do the voiceover for the play-by-play after the game was played, and the game was basically shot on a projector, okay? Chicago doesn't know what a good quarterback looks like, but Justin Fields will show them right after Andy Dalton is either booed off the field or injured. And third, something completely different. Is it possible that Coach Nagy is not confident in his offensive line? Maybe that's the issue. Maybe they're pulling one out of the Miami Dolphins hat. Hey, let Ryan Fitzpatrick get blasted all over the field for a year while we work on a way to get a quarterback in the building. Any one of those three things is true, and to be honest, to sit back and watch isn't Justin Fields' best interests anyway, because not only does he have the opportunity to step into Chicago, a very storied franchise, one of the oldest in the NFL, and B, I think he would be the first black starter that they drafted that high for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And do so in a fashion that, I mean, I know we already have Lamar Jackson, and I know we already have Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson, and a long list of black quarterbacks who are prolific in the current league. What he can do for Chicago to get them on the map and make them relevant all over again for the franchise that had one of the first Super Bowl participants in the same game, also happened to be black. That's going to be a heck of a thing to watch, and Justin Fields is going to be a part of it, and he could be the guy that goes as the best quarterback in franchise history.
And Kyle, you mentioned quarterbacks in the Miami Dolphins. Kyle, before we get to our opinion segment of the evening, let's talk about a quarterback down in Miami. Tua Tagovailoa threw 5 interceptions in practice. I think 5 or 6 interceptions in practice on Monday or Tuesday this week. The first day of minicamp, and it caused a stir. Ooh! I'm going to try to use your voice, Kyle, because you're better at this than I am. Ooh, 5 interceptions. We got to trade this guy. Ooh, it's minicamp. Kyle, explain to people who are overreacting about, or is it okay to react this way to 5 interceptions in a minicamp opening day? Is that cause of concern? And if not, please explain to people why it's not, or why it should be.
Of course it's not. It absolutely is not, because in training camp is when you're trying to push the envelope and see where the line is. Tua is still a young football player. You know, there was a guy, come to think of it, there was a guy who was pretty awful after a minicamp where he threw a bunch of interceptions. He was this guy, it was out west, Mahomes, that was his name. Mahomes threw a bunch of interceptions in camp and was just useless afterwards. Matter of fact, he was so useless. As an example of how not to play quarterback, the Chiefs wanted to keep him around and gave him nearly $500 million in money just so they could show everybody how not to play quarterback. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. No, listen, and by the way, I'm not trying to say Tua is Mahomes by any stretch. I don't know Tua's middle name yet. There's a reason. It's not time to learn it. Patrick LeVon Mahomes II is a great quarterback, and he is a guy that throws interceptions in camp. It's okay. You're testing things. You are working things out. And not to mention, oh, by the way, the day after that 5 interception snafu you talked about, he hit the first-round pick and his former teammate for a 50-yarder. But no one talks about that trash now, do they? At the end of the day, that's the one thing that sucks about media, is because there's media and then there's journalism, and the people that concentrate on the 5 touchdowns are precisely media, not journalists.
And you know what, Kyle? That gets to our opinion segment tonight. Opinion segment, yes. We kind of replaced Mount Rushmore with our opinion section, because there's some things in life that need an opinion, especially sports-wise.
And I got something to say, people.
We both, I think, and this is a great discussion, Kyle, because you mentioned the fact of media and journalists. It's come to our attention once again, that the media has done something once again, or has the power to do something that is good in some ways and bad in some other ways. So, Kyle, let's go back to the NBA once again. And Kyle, this week, the All-NBA teams were announced. I think it was on Monday. And after the 15 players were selected, and they did it by positions, 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center, it just so happened that 2 guys, Jason Tatum and Jason Tatum and Donovan Mitchell, lost $33 million, Kyle, because they were not voted to either any of the NBA's first, second, or third teams, while Luka Doncic is now eligible for $200 million because he made first team like he deserves to. Kyle, those 2 guys were left off the roster, while guys like Jimmy Butler and LeBron James, who missed like 30 games, made All-NBA. Inside the CBA rules, there explains that if a player makes All NBA or MVP or any of the votes, they somehow get a certain percent of the cap. Kyle, at some point, should the media be able to dictate somebody's paycheck on a simple vote?
Well, here's the thing. Every question you're asking is legitimate, Danny Thompson. But you know what my takeaway from that is? whoever your CBA president is, or excuse me, your Players Association negotiator is, their NBA players, fire them. Okay. What you have in there is some sort of a crazy premise that keeps the rich richer and does nothing for the rest of your guys. And oh, by the way, if somebody emerges by going absolutely nuts in 2 playoff series in a row, a la Donovan Mitchell, you're getting, now granted, it's tough to say, oh, well, Braun or Butler shouldn't be in there. You know, I mean, that's the tough thing about this year in particular, too. There's no obvious snub, right? I mean, I forget if Trae Young made the list or not. There's somebody. He didn't make it.
No Trae Young, no Russell Westbrook, no Jason Tatum, no Donovan Mitchell, among other players. Those are some of the major snubs.
I think among this year, among stars, and I'm not saying superstars, but stars in general, very competitive. This was one of the best sets of playoffs, you know, overall. Just like we were giving the bubble praise, let's not take anything away from this series. Granted, some of the series in the East didn't go as planned, and I could see why Julius Randle didn't get added to that All-NBA list after what we saw in New York in the playoffs didn't go.
Well, he made second team All-NBA this year, actually.
Okay, well,
because it's a regular season award. So All-NBA is a regular season award. Those awards were tallied before the playoffs even started.
I'm aware it's a regular season award, but this opinion is formed in part by what happens in the playoffs, whether we like it or not, right? Okay, somebody out there said, oh, Nikola Jokic shouldn't be the MVP. Chris Paul should have been. Look what happened. Okay, listen, it's a regular season award. And maybe more sports need to do like hockey does with the Conn Smythe and give me a playoff edition MVP. You know, I would love to see an NFL playoff MVP because so many times it would be different than who the damn MVP was, right? Looking at you, Lamar Jackson, looking at you, Aaron Charles Rodgers, etc. But yeah, I mean, for me, you make an excellent point, but at the end of the day, it was kind of dumb to tie your negotiations to that in the first place.
Here's my problem I have with this. I get the fact that and Kyle, we're both members of the media, and no, I do not have an NBA All-NBA vote. Hopefully I'll get one the next year or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully I'll get one the next year or so. But here's my concern with the All-NBA when it comes to guys getting money. Number one, the All-NBA team should be the 15 best players.
Shouldn't be by position.
Yeah, that needs to go, okay?
Well, then you would never have a center on that list. Which, if you're okay with that, cool.
I mean, Kyle, you would have had two guys. You would have had two centers on first team this year because Nikola Jokic, Embiid would have been first team.
Yeah,
they both would have been first team. Yeah. All right, it should be the 15 best players. Okay, I think they should do an all NBA team where it should be the 12 best players on one team, kind of like Kyle. You remember the old All Pro teams? They all pro teams in the NFL. I think they should have a team, 5 guys, and then the 7 best reserves. Okay, those guys are all NBA. All right, there's no first team, there's no second team. It's just the 12 best players in the league, or even go 15 because you have the 3 practice spots. That's how a team should be selected, and that's how guys should be slotted. Okay, I don't think the media should have that ability. And you're right, the CBA should have never happened this way. That guys had to have that ability taken away from them because of the fact that no one wants to cut a check. It sucks. Kemba Walker, I mean, we had to basically beg to get Kemba Walker an extension because get the extra money because he just needed to make third team All-NBA. All right? It is what it is. But it sucks for Donovan Mitchell and Jason Tatum, especially Jason Tatum.
Now, and didn't Klay Thompson just suffer this recently himself, for example?
A couple years ago, he missed it. There are guys who have missed $30 million plus because of things like this. It sucks. I don't think that the media should have any type of say-so in people getting money. It can be biased, it can be is what it is, but, man, some of this stuff's got to go. And last but not least, what grinds my gears is if the damn NBA needs to go ahead and get rid of this fan voting for the All-Star, for the MVP award, because there's no way Derrick Rose should have more MVP votes or more points than LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, and like 12 other players combined because he got 1 first place vote from the damn fans. Who the hell was voting for this anyway?
Oh, and as a quick thing, all those points you make, especially eliminating positions overall, hell, Danny, nowadays, positions in the NBA mean very little.
Yeah, because right now, Kyle, to your point, it is positionless basketball. Kyle, I know we're about 6 minutes over. Hey, we cut it down to an hour tonight. But Kyle, before we go, any shout outs tonight, sir?
Hey man, listen, shout out to all the dads out there, including my guy Danny Thompson. This weekend is Father's Day. Enjoy the hell out of it, brother man.
You know what? Big shout outs to all the fathers out there. Kyle, like I said, big shout happy Father's Day, early Father's Day to you. You have you got the kids on your hands. Big happy Father's Day to Bobby, who's driving around where he is right now. I will not wish a happy Father's Day to my webcam because I was clear about 30 minutes ago, and now I'm fuzzy as of right now because my early Father's Day gift is actually not being a gift right now. Thanks, baby. It's not your fault, bro. Just thank you because you got these webcam. Big shout out to everybody in the chat, Precious, Cortland as usual. And Kyle, before we go, got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You're offered $15 million to go against Damian Lillard in a 3-point shootout. First one to make 5 shots wins. All right. Now here's the difference. Dame is at half court at the 3-point line, and you get 15 chances. If you fail, you have to spend the next 5 years in prison.
I'm out.
Are you taking the challenge?
Hell no, I'm terrible. Listen, man, that Horace Grant between the free throw line and the top of the key was my shot. I didn't do it behind the arc, man. I was a post player.
Listen, if it's anybody but Dame Lillard and Steph Curry, I'm taking the challenge, especially for guys shooting from half court. But Logo Dame, nah, buddy.
Not about that life.
Nah. So, for myself, the student in the game, Mr. Kyle Nash, Bobby Blackjack up in New Jersey. We will talk next Thursday night. We'll talk about the NBA lottery because for the teams who didn't make the playoffs, it's your basically Black Friday. You get to find out where your team is picking on Christmas. Yay! We'll also talk NFL mini camps, and also want to talk about Cole Beasley and the whole situation about the NFL protocols because for vaccinated, unvaccinated players, Kyle, it was a completely different experience during minicamp. I want to talk about that. And we also want to get into college football because, Kyle, we'll be a week away from July, and we're going to get college football back. And did they even decide about the playoff yet? Or has that been voted on yet?
I don't think it's in ink yet. My guess would be that we're not really going to see it in this season. But listen, man, for me, I think it's good news that they're even talking about it.
We'll also talk about Wimbledon, the draw with or without Naomi Osaka, because of course, she's not playing because they don't want her playing. Also talk about the Team USA camps, and also, Kyle, we might actually have some Olympic baseball. We'll talk about Olympic basketball too. And also, whatever topics comes into me and Kyle's head, we'll also talk about things on our mind. Hey, look who's in the house.
Oh. Hello.
Sup, Bobby?
Yes, the man who's about in the darker green room than Kyrie Irving on the bench hey, look, I'm back. Who's darker than Kyrie Irving on the bench in Brooklyn right now? How you doing, my friend?
Oh boy,
I'm good. Just checking in.
I mean, hey, we didn't see Bobby all show, and he's checking in at the hour and 7-minute mark. So myself, Kyle at the bottom, Bobby in somewhere in Bumble. I'm not sure if it's a parking lot or snow in the background.
Well, maybe next week, me and Kyle will be together. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
It'll be Beyond the Buzzer Part 2. So, like I said, for the wonderful the wonderful Texas trio, the three of us, I call it Texas trio. That first thing came to mind. Myself, Kyle, and Bobby will see you guys on Thursday night for next week. It'll be on the buzzer. Stay safe. Like I said, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and also happy Juneteenth as well too. Have a great night, everybody.
Later.